RougeRadio.com. Jenn, wrapping up the 99th Grey Cup with Matt Baker, CFL reporter for Team 1040.
Team Radio, Team 1040, Team 1410 with 2 stations, flagship home of the BC Lions. Got it all.
Got it all. Where do we start? I mean, a great game. Lule, in his press conference, said that he had, a few mistakes, that his heart missed a couple beats on the almost interception by Odell Wallace. But
yeah, I talked to him about that as well, yeah. Lule, I'll tell you what, if there ever was a game where he would have to take his entire offensive line and buy them each a steak and a shot, tonight was it. I mean, you look at the protection on Andrew Harris's touchdown run in the first quarter. I think Lule has to be commended because second and third quarter for the Lions, it would have been easy for them to get frustrated. They left some points on the field. But at the end of the day, they clutched up when they needed to, and that'll be the storyline from this Grey Cup, one of the many.
Definitely. Andrew Harris, great game. The guy seems to just love championship games. We had the 2008 Canadian Bowl, where he runs for 410 yards.
Vancouver Island Raiders, yep.
410 yards. And then he finds another gear when he gets into playoff mode.
Tell you what, deserving most outstanding Canadian, although had the Lions offense continued to struggle and McCallum not hit the upright on that 49-yard field goal attempt, I thought maybe he could have been deserving as the most outstanding Canadian if the field goals were going to hold up and be the difference. But yeah, talking about all the storylines, this is a guy who, coming into camp, was told he'd have an even shot with Jerome Messam as the club's feature back, and let's be honest about it, Harris maybe was a little behind on the depth chart considering Jerome's experience, considering, and you look what he did in Edmonton here this year, it's no wonder. But yeah, the Andrew Harris story is great. Could have had a second touchdown as well, the drop in the other end zone over there. But as mentioned, he got some help from the offensive line, but he was quite the speedster, and it's great for him to have a coming out party like this on such a big stage like the Grey Cup.
It is. A lot of people probably haven't heard of Andrew Harris outside of BC.
Oh, they'll know him now.
Everybody knows him now. For a while, for the second and third quarters, it was a defensive battle. Like, the Lions' defense, we shouldn't, make light of them. They gave Buck Pierce so many frustrations.
I don't know what you can say about the Lions' defense. Last week against Edmonton, 4 first downs in the opening half. Tonight, you look what Winnipeg did. They get 1 first down on a Buck Pierce broken play. He runs on their first series, and there was nothing until close to the 3-minute warning when they settled for their first 3 points. Yeah, everyone said this was going to be about the line of scrimmage. We've talked about the offensive line of the BC Lions, how they performed. Buck Pierce, overall, for the most part, got some good protection as well. But yeah, the Lions were aggressive. 6 guys at the line, a lot of corner blitzes. A lot of man-to-man coverage, although Carr, one of the Winnipeg receivers, managed to escape on a couple routes. Thought he may have gotten away with an offensive pass interference on his touchdown. I don't know, we're on the far side here. But yeah, Lions defense, we thought it was going to be a battle of the line of scrimmage. One in the trenches, the old cliche goes, and defense was outstanding.
It was definitely loud here, at least when the Bombers went offense. Do you think that actually rattled Pierce?
Absolutely. Can't remember offhand how many procedures were called, but yeah, we talked about the inability for them to move the ball in the first half. I think they had a lot of trouble adjusting to the crowd. Whatever went on at halftime, the adjustments that they made, that worked, and we saw the frantic comeback attempt in the fourth quarter. But yeah, absolutely, Jen. I think the crowd noise is something that I don't want to say the Bombers weren't ready for, but they clearly couldn't adapt quickly enough.
I don't know that anybody is ready. You hear that it's going to be noisy, but until you've actually played in that kind of noise, it was loud up here in the press box. I can't imagine what it was like down on the field if we're not concentrating.
I'm trying to think here. I've heard different explanations since the renovations here at BC Place. I know this radio online doesn't do it justice, but whatever barriers are up there in the lights that you see now, it doesn't necessarily make noise louder. It makes it clearer. And as far as Grey Cups go, this is only my third. Was in Calgary 2 years ago. Was in this very venue in '94, and that was loud. That was a bit bigger crowd than this because the capacity is a bit lower now after the renovations. But yeah, it was loud. I love the atmosphere. You see fans not just from BC and Winnipeg. I know this isn't exactly breaking news, but fans of all colors. It was festive in here. I really enjoyed it, despite the fact there was a bit of a lull in the second and third quarter. Like we said, this crowd was into it today, and thankfully for a lot of the people who are going to be spending time outside in downtown Vancouver, the Lions pulled it off.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of partying. To what do you attribute? Like, did the Lions win? Did the Bombers lose? How do you pull this out? Like, how do you define it?
I think the Lions won it all the way, top to bottom. They made plays when they had to. They were more consistent on offense. You know, even when Winnipeg was driving in the third and fourth quarters, there were some plays there that didn't get finished. There was some missed assignments. A real backbreaker, I thought, was the Khalif Mitchell sack on Buck Pierce. Talking about getting plays when you absolutely needed them. I think, hats off to Winnipeg. They didn't quit. They could have packed it in at 31-9. And God only knows if that onside kick travels 3 more yards and Carr still recovers it. Who knows? Maybe we're still here watching the 9th overtime shootout. You never know. But if you have to ask me the question, I say hats off to Winnipeg, but the Lions are a deserving champion here.
Yeah, that botched onside kick. They had to try it. BC knew it was coming. There was no other option.
Yeah, was it a minute 38 to go?
Yeah.
You can't, we're talking about, based on the way the Lions were moving the ball, you can't bank on them going 2 and out. Even if they do, that's valuable time missed. And Winnipeg, that's another key element. The field position battle, all day, lost. I mean, we talked about that only first down in the opening quarter. Buck Pierce was pinned down here at his own 7. I mean, that'll be a talked about point, too, is about how the Blue Bombers, couldn't make hay with bad field position. And, you're right. Onside kick had to be done, considering what's at stake, considering the time on the clock. Right decision by Paul LaPolice, only wasn't executed perfectly.
No, you have to make it move 10 yards or it doesn't count. That's what burned them.
Yep.
Game-changing play. Could it have been the Odell Willis non-interception?
Well, that's, how huge is that now? I mean, look what the Lions do after that. I think the Arland Bruce touchdown that put them up 31-9. I mean, we talked about what Winnipeg did after that. They're able to move the ball in desperation, make some big plays, get it back to within a 1-score game. I mean, the fact that Lulay had overthrown Bruce a couple times, looked like they were out of sync. That touchdown told me that they'd worked out the kinks. And largest lead of the day for the Lions, I think that was the backbreaker.
I think it was. We find out after the game that Lulay played with a badly injured groin. How much does that add to his performance when he's playing hurt?
Maybe now we give him a bit of a free pass for a couple of the missed opportunities early, but that's not surprising. Guys are banged up this time of year. The Lions were really banged up. I mean, there was no secrets the amount of guys that weren't 100% down the stretch, and perhaps that's a saving grace. They were able to win against Montreal here the last week and get first place. Because I'm not exactly going on a limb here. If the Lions have to go to Calgary as a third-place team if they don't win that game, we're not talking about a Lions victory right now, I don't think. But, not surprising. I mean, Travis paying the price, took a lot of hits throughout the year. Talking about Buck Pierce and the amount of injuries he sustained. But, it just adds to the story.
It explains why he wasn't quite as mobile as you would have.
No, I mean, you view him as a bit more of a scrambling quarterback. I know that's not one of Buck Pierce's greatest strengths, but, not surprising at all.
No. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I mean, I remember at 0-5, I was one of the people in the media here suggesting that maybe this team wasn't the right group of guys, starts at the top with Wally Buono to get it done and win a championship. I mean, had you told me the Lions... I mean, let's be honest about it. Saskatchewan at the time was still struggling. It was still a very real possibility that the Lions would be a playoff team. But to end up first in the division, to win, 10 of 11 down the stretch, and really not have much difficulty here against a good football team. And when we talked about the comeback attempts... So, that's what I'll leave you with. Have we talked about this at 0-5, 1-6? I would have said you're nuts, and that's pretty much what I'll take out of today.
I don't think there would have been many people who would have disagreed with you.
No, I mean our radio station, we were taking phone calls from people saying Wally Buono, the game had passed him by. It's time for him to step down. Travis Lulay, talking about him, there was questions about him. I mean. And credit to them, they made some changes where they had to. I know Kamal Peterson was released. On defense, David Hyland. There was moves made, the addition of Arland Bruce. Tad Cornegay to the secondary. Didn't stand out a whole lot today, but he's a big reason their defense was what it was. I mean, at the same time, everyone talking about Wally Buono when this team was struggling, what do you do with him? I think credit goes to Roy Shivers as well in the player personnel department. Finding out what holes needed to be replaced, and they did it, and they got a championship.
How safe is Wally's job now?
Well, I talked to him. A lot of speculation. He has a year left on his contract, but as you know, he's in the dual role of general manager and coach. He has told David Braley, and he's been on record as saying he will serve out the contract, so he will be with the team next year. Now, the only question is, does he step aside from coaching and focus on his general manager duties? He says a decision will come long before his annual Hawaiian Christmas vacations. If I'm a betting man, I'm saying he steps aside, goes out on top, remains as general manager for one more year, then calls it a career.
And so then that's another coaching vacancy that we have to fill in the CFL.
Yeah, talking about, if Wally does go down that road, I know Mike Benavides, the defensive coordinator, has more than once in the past been discussed for vacant head coaching positions around the league. Interviewed with Toronto, was offered the job in Toronto, I believe, heading into 2009, decided not to take it. Everyone always talks about Dave Dickinson in Calgary, his ties to the organization. But it's weird. It's not often when you see a team win a championship and bring in a head coach from outside the organization. If Wally's the general manager, he wants to be comfortable with his guy. I would have to think that Mike Benavides would get the first crack at it, but we'll have to wait and see.
So it's not possible that he'll step aside from the GM role to focus on coaching?
Again, that's possible. He said he would fulfill his contract, but not necessarily keep both roles. But the scenario that many people keep bringing up is maybe the coaching, the grind of it. He's been doing it full time here since 1990, his first year as a head coach in Calgary. So it would make more sense if he was only going to do one, to be a general manager. But again, stranger things have happened.
It's Wally Buono. He does like to keep everybody on their toes and not play his hand until it's gone.
Yeah. But I'll leave you with this though too. He was emotional. I asked him the question in his press conference, and he was emotional when he gave his answer, saying, again, the result here isn't going to impact my decision, but we'll have a decision to make here in long before Christmas, is how he put it. With a little bit of a crack in his voice. I get the sense this was his last game as a coach, but who knows? Maybe he'll think about it for a week or two and have a different view on it. Yeah,
it's a lot better once you start getting that sleep again. Once those long days kind of ended, it's a lot better. People forget. A guy like Wally, two roles for one, and he's in the office at 5:30, 6 in the morning. You're not just here for practice. You're watching film. You're doing administrative stuff. There's contracts, a big part of the off season, and that's a big part of it too. If he was to take only one, because he's pretty hands-on in his contract negotiations with the club, and there's a lot of free agents on both sides of the ball. So that's an area of the job I think he'll still thrive on. But yeah, a little bit of emotion in his voice when he gave the answer of no decision yet. Well, thank you so much.
No problem.